As we've been telling you, tensions continue to escalate between the U.S. and China. This after the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told U.S. Congress that Hong Kong has lost its autonomy and that it no longer qualifies for a special trade status under American law. Earlier, China blocked an attempt by Washington to hold a United Nations Security Council meeting on this national security law. Meanwhile, scuffles broke out in the Hong Kong Legislative Council as pro-democracy lawmakers protested against the National Anthem Bill, which will criminalize disrespect of the Chinese national anthem. Legislative Council security staff removed pro-democracy lawmakers from the chamber as the debate on the Anthem Bill went underway. The bill will make it mandatory for the Chinese national anthem to be taught in schools in Hong Kong. The debate was later suspended as pro-democracy lawmakers threw an object at the Legislative Council president. Let's now listen to what's next for Hong Kong from leading pro-democracy activist Joshua Wong, who spoke with us just moments ago.
When will the law drafted and passed in the core committee of National People Congress and directly execute in Hong Kong? We are still tracking on when will Beijing provide a timetable. And we need to try as possible as we can to stop the execution and implementation of the national security law in Hong Kong. Hong Kong court have no jurisdiction to challenge this legislation because National People Congress, no doubt at all, override the legal system in Hong Kong. And after the national security law implemented in Hong Kong, the trial or the prosecution might not take place in Hong Kong. It might take place in China, which means that dissidents, journalists, businessmen in Hong Kong might face the risk being extradited from Hong Kong to China to face the trial and be locked up in the prison of Beijing. Now we hope to gather more people on street after the end of the outbreak of COVID-19 and let Beijing know that how we seek for enough support in local and also global community. When will Beijing implement the national security law? No one knows. It will be 4 weeks later, or maybe 3 months later, or half year later. When time is running out in Hong Kong, we urge world leaders to stand with Hong Kong and to support our fight. Yeah, and I think you echo on what I believe in and how Beijing broke the promise in the Sino-British Joint Declaration, ignore what written in the mini constitution of Hong Kong, which is the basic law, how United Nations Security Council wished to discuss on it and being banned by Beijing. And all we know is the anti-subversion regulation in Hong Kong, which means that once you call on President Xi to step down, once you call on the city's leader to step down, you might be arrested and jailed for 5, 10, or 20 years.
That was pro-democracy activist Joshua Wong in conversation with WION World. It's one time now to cut across live to a press briefing that's being held on this all-important national security law. Let's listen.
南区第二排路透社胡伟聪。
Good afternoon. I'm from Reuters. The new coronavirus outbreak has devastated economies around the world. Trillions of dollars in fiscal and monetary measures have been pushed out to deal with the fallout. In this year's government work report, China did not set a GDP growth target, but it did announce fiscal measures worth about 4% of China's GDP in 2019, according to our calculations. That's slightly less than what some economists were expecting after seeing China's economy contract for the first time in decades in the first quarter. So my question is, can we expect China to deliver more ambitious stimulus in the months to come? As well as, does China have sufficient policy options to deal with a prolonged global pandemic and rising tensions with the United States? Thank you.
路透社记者，新冠肺炎疫情对世界各国的经济都造成了严重的影响，不少国家的政府出台了数万亿美元的财政和货币措施来应对新冠肺炎疫情对经济产生的冲击。我注意到今年中国政府工作报告中没有设定今年 GDP 增速。根据路透社的测算，政府工作报告中出台的财政措施约占中国2019年国内生产总值的 4%， 这个规模比一些经济学家的预期要低于一些经济学家的预期。那么今年一季度中国经济首次出现了几十年以来的收缩，我想问的是，未来几个月中方是否会出台更大规模的刺激措施？那么从更长远看，中方是否有足够的政策工具来应对全球疫情持续蔓延和不断紧张的中美关系？谢谢。
这次新冠肺炎疫情给世界经济造成了严重的冲击，可以说是世上罕见。最近不少主要的国际组织都预测今年全球经济的增长是负3%，甚至更多。中国经济已经深入的融合于世界经济，不可能置身之外。所以今年我们没有确定 GDP 增长的量化指标，这也是实事求是。但是我们确定了保居民就业、基本民生、市场主体等6保的目标任务，这和GDP 经济增长是有比较直接的。
China's Premier Li Keqiang addressing a media conference in the Chinese capital of Beijing, where a question has been posed on whether China would pave the way for added economic stimulus package to deal with the effects of the pandemic. This even as the National People's Congress of China passed the Hong Kong security law, which essentially bypasses Hong Kong's legislature, which has reignited a fresh round of protests, intense protests in Hong Kong. Even as that rages on, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang addressing concerns on how the Chinese government is planning to mitigate the financial impact of the COVID-19 crisis and whether more and more economic stimulus packages, a larger economic stimulus package will be announced in the days to come. Bear in mind, two controversial laws are being contemplated by China for Hong Kong. One is the National Security Law and the other is the National Anthem Bill, which criminalizes disrespect to the Chinese national anthem. Both these proposed laws have been met with severe criticism. Pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong have called out to the international community to step in and help the people of Hong Kong.
This year we decided not to set a specific GDP growth target. It is a decision informed by the realities on the ground. In the meantime, we have formulated a series of goals and tasks in 6 key areas which are closely connected with economic development, with particular focus on employment, people's basic living needs, and market entities. Not setting a specific GDP growth target does not mean that economic development is not important. Our decision is designed for the economic development to deliver more real gains to our people, and we want to promote China's higher quality development. We believe that development still holds the key and is the foundation for resolving all the problems in China today. Putting protections in place in 6 key areas, especially in the areas of jobs, livelihoods, and businesses, will help us achieve positive growth of China's economy this year and keep China's economic fundamentals stable.
你刚才说到我们出台的政策有反映规模低于预期，但是我也听到很多方面的反应，认为我们出台的规模性的政策还是
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang addressing the media, even as China has approved the controversial Hong Kong security law, which has triggered wide-scale protests in Hong Kong. Even pro-Hong Kong activists in Taiwan are protesting against the Hong Kong security law. They're asking the international community to intervene and take action against the Chinese government. This even as the Chinese government is addressing a media conference, answering queries on whether China will expand its economic stimulus package to deal with the COVID-19 crisis and its impact on China's economy. Chinese government addressing the media on a day in which there have been huge protests against it in Hong Kong. Hong Kong's pro-democracy activist Joshua Wong spoke to us just a short while ago and asked for the international community to take action. Otherwise, this will be the death of Hong Kong, or the death of the autonomy of Hong Kong, where China is now introducing more and more laws to exert its own control and authority over Hong Kong.
You said our measures are somewhat below expectations. I have heard some people say that our measures are forceful. For any response to work, we must get both the timing and intensity of the response right. In the raging times of COVID-19, some policies were also introduced, but the economy was barely reopened, and the situation then made it difficult for these policies to get truly delivered on the ground, as most of the populations were still staying at home. But that has been a process of gaining experience, and based on the experience we have gained in the past weeks and months, we have decided on these new steps as set out in the government work report, and we believe these measures are forceful.
过去我们说过，不搞大水漫灌，现在还是这样，但是特殊时期要有特殊的政策，我们叫做放水养。没有
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang continue to answer the question on why China did not set up a GDP target this year and whether China is planning to deliver more economic stimulus. But the Chinese Premier is saying that it's impossible for China's economy to stay immune to COVID-19, and that Chinese government believes that putting protections in place in jobs, livelihood and business will help China keep its economic growth stable. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang also saying that the Chinese government has formulated a series of reforms and in 6 key areas of the economy, and that not setting a GDP target does not mean that developmental goals will not be taken care of. And the 6 key areas we're talking about include employment, basic livelihood, and will help in China's economic growth.
Is important to fish farming. Sufficient liquidity is important to economic development. But excessive liquidity will induce froth in the marketplace, where some people may attempt to muddy the waters and fish for arbitrage. We must ensure that the measures taken are well focused and write a precise prescription to get ourselves out of the current hardship. New approaches must be employed as to where the money comes from and how it is spent.
这次规模性政策筹措的资金可以说分两大块，一块就是新增赤字和
So even as
抗疫特别
China's National People's Congress passes the Hong Kong security law that has unleashed a new wave of protests in Hong Kong, the Chinese government addressing a media conference on the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the economy and the Chinese government's response to it and the way forward in terms of keeping China's economic growth on track. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang saying that the Chinese government did not give a GDP growth target, but that does not mean that the developmental goals of China will not be taken care of. The Chinese government is planning to put in protection in 6 key areas of the economy, and the Chinese Premier also admitting that it's impossible for China's economy to stay immune to COVID-19.
保就业、民生和市场经济，更直接的，或者说比较直接的去支撑居民的收入，和我们现在居民收入40多万亿的总盘子来讲，它的比例是2位数以上。
The sources of the funds of a fairly large scale can be grouped into mainly 2 categories. The first category covers the increase of budget deficit and issuance of special treasury bonds for COVID-19 control. Together, it amounts to 2 trillion RMB. The other category covers payment relief for enterprises of their contributions to social security schemes, tapping into the balance of the unemployment insurance fund and other balances of social security funds, interest concessions made by state-owned commercial banks, and price reductions in natural monopoly industries to lower enterprises' operating costs. The monetary scale of measures in the second category is twice as big as that in the first one, and this money will be primarily used to support jobs, people's basic living needs, and businesses, and will also, in a quite direct way, contribute to an increase of household income. The truth is, the scale of our funds accounts for a double-digit figure in the 40 trillion RMB yuan total household income in China.
更重要的是，钱往哪里去？我们这个规模性政策，可以说叫做为企业纾困和激发市场活力，主要是来稳就业、保民生，使居民
Premier
消
Li
费。
Keqiang addressing the media on China's economic measures that it takes to deal with the COVID-19 crisis. 6 key areas of the economy has been identified. New steps are being taken to make sure China's developmental goals on track. Bear in mind, China has not given a GDP forecast for the year, but the Chinese Premier clarifying that just because there is no GDP forecast doesn't mean that China is not striving to keep its developmental trajectory on track.
To provide vital relief to market entities and revitalize the market, with a particular focus on supporting jobs and people's livelihoods so that our people will have money to spend and that consumption will drive market vitality. This is our measure in keeping with market-oriented reform.
钱是可以生钱的，用之于民的钱。
Government is focusing on market-oriented reforms and making sure that livelihoods are not affected, people's incomes are not affected. The Chinese Premier also is talking about how they will not flood the Chinese economy with liquidity, as excess liquidity will muddy the economic waters of the country. The Chinese Premier also saying that a precise prescription is needed in this moment of crisis, and that there must be new approaches on where the money comes from and where it is spent from here on.
财政、金融、社保都有储备。